I'm looking at America right now.
Oh, America's in trouble.
America's in trouble, going downhill.
And
I'm thinking to myself, what can one do?
Well, and because history is not really taught anymore like it used to be taught.
Right.
These kids in school today, they don't even understand what socialism is. They think it's a great idea. They don't understand it doesn't work, and it has never worked. It is a failed experiment. And I'm so thankful to God that my wife and I raised our children during the collapse of the Soviet Union so that our kids could see with their own eyes what happens when the world tries to become a socialist, Marxist world. It is total failure. And it's so sad to see the West trying to go in that direction.
And it's so clear. It's when you look at it, you don't have to have any imagination at all to see that other countries have gone the same way, and look what's happened to them.
And you know, Gary, now when we come back to America, now we come here as visitors because we live overseas. When I come back to America, we were talking about this yesterday. We can see the degradation of society taking place in America. Customer service is a far cry from what it was 30 years ago. The standard of excellence is not what it used to be 30 years ago.
Yes.
Cities are falling into decay. We're talking about the United States, which used to be the epitome of excellence for the rest of the world. And we're really seeing a decay take place in the Western world. And boy, the gospel is really necessary.
And you ask, how could this happen? My first thought was, well, there are those principalities, powers, rulers of darkness in high places.
That's correct.
That the Bible talks about.
That's right.
They are busy.
They are.
Behind the scenes.
And you know, Paul teaches very clearly that at the end of the age, there's going to be a great apostasy that's going to take place. You can read about it in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. It says there's going to be a falling away. And that Greek word for falling away, the Greek word apostasia,
yes,
means a stepping away, but is actually the word for a rebellion, mutiny, or revolt. And it's describing a society at the end of the age that will try to throw off everything connected with the law of God. We're going to go a new way. We're going to be progressives. That's the term people are now using. We're not going to go back to the past. We're going to make a new way forward. And the world is becoming a lawless place. Lawless does not necessarily mean anarchy and chaos. It's a world free of law. We don't want to be bound by what we used to believe. We want to go a new way.
Well, it's kind of like a teenager who says, please, Dad, I'd rather do it myself.
And that's what's happening.
And that's what's happening.
And at the end of the age, a lawless world is going to produce a lawless man, the Antichrist.
Wow.
And so the world is being primed and prepared for that moment. That has nothing to do with this book.
I was just looking at your book as you said that. The title is The World Before the Flood. And let's just tell it like it is.
Okay.
We are living right now in the world before the flood.
We are.
We are at a period in history described in the Bible in which dark forces have corrupted mankind.
They have.
And the result will not be beautiful, just as it was in the days before Noah.
Well, in the days before the flood, entities from the spirit realm were descending into the earth realm and were beginning to interact with people. How is that being replicated in our time today? Well, look around. Just watch the television. If you go through the menu on TV, it is program after program after program connected to the occult, ghosts, spirits.
Yes.
I'm amazed at the plethora of programs about this on American television.
It's propaganda.
It's propaganda, and people are connecting with another realm, and they don't realize the danger of this. And I truly believe portals are being opened. You know, if you think about something long enough, it will become your reality.
Well, let's face it. People are looking for portals these days.
Well, they are.
They're out there with their cameras after dark, and suddenly a little light in the sky comes down, and it's saucer-shaped. And
that's right.
It's there for about 15, 20 seconds.
Or how about CERN
in
Switzerland, the collider? I mean, they've stated very clearly they're trying to open a portal. And they said not only to go through, but to see what will come back through from the other side.
And they even had a religious service at its opening.
They did. It's quite shocking. So we're living in a day when, just like in the days before the flood, people were interacting with spirits, fallen angels. You could say, in a certain way, the days before the flood were a time of diversity, equality, and inclusion, because they just decided they were going to open their arms to anything that appeared. And when they did, they began interacting with the nefarious realm, and the result was the Nephilim, which were born of the women in the days before the flood.
And so in the days, and I'm looking here at my Bible, and
That's a very well-used Bible. I like that.
well, I love this Bible, and I'm hoping to keep it all the way because it's been with me for a while now. But we have in Genesis chapter 5, the book of generations of Adam, and we come right down through to chapter 6, where we have men multiplying on the face of the earth.
That's
the
right.
population of the earth grows
That's right.
rapidly.
That's also being replicated
And
today.
that's being replicated.
That's being replicated.
And then you come to verse 4, where it says there were giants in the earth in those days. And there the story begins. And by the way, you have really captured, I think, what the Bible is saying.
Well, thank you. There's 44 pages of endnotes. That's a lot.
Wow.
Because this subject is so important, I wanted people to know this is not fantasy. It is backed up with documentation. These things really took place, and in some way, they are going to be replicated again between now and the end.
Now, to our audience, I want to put a question that will kind of take us in a particular direction.
Okay.
Why study this period of time? What does it tell us? I mean, what can we learn from re-examining Genesis 5 and 6?
Well, everybody likes to speculate about the future. That's why people read the horoscope. They want to know what's the future hold.
Yeah.
People talk about futurists. They want to talk about what the future holds. Well, Jesus said in Matthew 24:37, if you want to know what the future holds, then you have to turn around and see what was happening in the world before the flood, because it will be replicated again at the end of the age. So I understood, if I want to know what's going to happen, and if I want to help people be prepared about the future, Jesus said, turn around and see what was happening in the world before the flood.
Mm-hmm.
In the world before the flood, there were fallen angels, there were giants, and by the way, there were monsters in the world before the flood. And so if we're going to have a replication, it means there's going to be, again, interaction with dark, nefarious forces. There's going to be monstrous things in the earth, things that should not be, violations that should not exist. And that's what we're seeing.